Hello everyone, happy holidays. This video is going to be covering an absolutely incredible open source Linux conference called All Things Open. Absolutely massive. 1,300 people descended upon Raleigh, North Carolina. You've heard this all song and dance with the prior event for CMX, but All Things Open and the Embedded Community Leadership Summit are completely different events from CMX, and they've done a lot of things really, really well. It was an incredible event with a lot to learn from, so let's go ahead and hop into it. All Things Open is a decade-long conference, and embedded into it was a conference that Jono Bacon, one of my most treasured mentors, actually started. So what I'm going to do is just start with the general conference vibe, and then we're going to cover a lot of the talks from Community Leadership Summit and All Things Open, where I actually spoke as well. And of course, we do need to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the event. The best particular good, though, is that I won a Rasberry Pi. I won it as a part of the Community Leadership Summit, and truth be told, I don't really know what I want to do with it. So I'm gonna give it to one of you lovely people. Subscribe to this channel and leave a comment down below to tell me how you're gonna do this Rasberry Pi. So if you want to learn how to code, or you just want to give this away as a beautiful present to a burgeoning young STEM child, here is your chance. Just comment down below with a few ideas for how you'd like to use it, and I'll give it to one of you. And with that, let's go ahead and get over to the actual conference itself. All Things Open was absolutely gigantic, and it took place over 4 days, beginning on Sunday with DEIB. For those who are unaware, DEIB stands for Diversity, Inclusion, Equity, and Belonging. This is one of the most important things to come to business in recent years, especially given the appeal to diversity over the course of COVID. There are a lot of aspects to DEIB that you need to implement in your communities, and I would go so far as to say it is Community 101. We spent an entire day on DEIB, and two of the standout conversations, link in the show notes below, included Ruby Satarr, who discussed community and a sense of belonging as belonging to a playlist. It's really important that we make DEIB very, very simple and easy to implement and understand, because it can be the very thing that prevents people of diverse backgrounds from actually interacting in your open source project, or dare I say it, your brand community. So one of the most important things that you can do is explain diversity and belonging as if you're a 5-year-old. And the way she does is by describing it as belonging to a playlist.
If diversity is having a variety of folks present at the party, equity is making sure everyone's able to attend, and inclusion is being asked to dance, where does the B for belonging fit in? So once you're included at the party, do you see your contributions as meaningful? Do the dance hits that represent you make it into that playlist that everyone's dancing to?
Now, the thing I absolutely loved about this talk was that it really did drive home the fact that contributions are a necessity to representing diversity. And you're not just gauging them based upon how many people are engaged, but that those contributions have value and do make it forward. One of the easiest ways to do that is to pay attention to Vaathika Mishra's talk, which is all about community crafting experiences. As you know, in my definition of online community, experience is one of the chief things that you need to build in an online community in order to ensure that people see, experience, and create online value in your online communities. The easiest way to think of this is knowing that small groups are the unit of change in your community, and your community is a unit of culture affected by that change. The following day, we got to the meat of the discussion, which is the Community Leadership Summit. The Community Leadership Summit was started by Jono Bacon and Todd and Danny and all the people at All Things Open, specifically because they recognized that building cultures was paramount to ensuring the future of open source community success. Now, Jono was one of my most favored mentors, and unfortunately we weren't able to meet, so no huge pictures there, but we did get to meet a whole bunch of people that I absolutely adore. So it had quite the showing, and absolutely amazing keynotes. One talk I want to bring attention to is Paloma's, which was all about codes of conduct. Again, the link is in the description below. What's important about codes of conduct is that they act effectively as laws or as policies in your online community. In another video linked here, I did cover the Socio-Ecological Model, which is effectively a model that divides your online community into a series of scopes or layers where you can create a specific behavior on each scope in order to create or affect change in the overall culture of your community. The public policy, the codes of conduct, and the community guidelines, i.e. all three parts of the community charter, are all necessary in order to set the groundwork for how you want to communicate and understand and build online community. Like I said, All Things Open is a huge event. So when we actually got into the last 2 days of the event, that's when the vast majority of people arrived. This is when a whole bunch of technical talks like data analysts, Internet of Things, Web3, all of these different web architecture, open source areas started to build into the event. At least 12 different rooms, and not all of them were recorded, which is honestly one of the big problems that I had with my own talk. So in order to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to break down my talk over the course of an hour into 3 different videos here on this channel. The 3 videos that I'm going to cover are: 1, the actual social science of online community. The second thing is applying that social scientific process to qualitative data measures to actually build platforms that use qualitative data in your community. And then the third video is going to be an update on my current social currency metric system for you to apply qualitative data to your online communities. So if you're interested in those 3 videos, just make sure that you subscribe and ring that bell to get notified over the course of the December and January weeks where I'm going to be rolling those videos out. What are a few talks at All Things Open that really kind of got me? One of the most important ones I think exists for you specifically as community managers is by Scherr, who spoke precisely about building dashboards that actually report the things that we need to know in highly fluctuating projects. In most open source projects, things can change rather frequently. So being able to build a dashboard that has a consistent data flow quarter over quarter is so important. In order for your dashboards to operate and function, they have to be living features. You need to be able to benchmark and then forecast your data, which means there has to be some level of reliability. As things become important, your KPIs or your metrics will graduate from your reports into your dashboard because you've noticed that they are driving metrics of your work. I want to cover Andrew Zigler's talk as well over at Mattermost about how you can implement open source within your tech stack one at a time. You can play with things and you can move into open source functionality one by one or over time by using a variety of different integrations. In the Web3 space, I highly recommend giving this talk a look because this is really going to simplify a large majority of your platform decisions.
Despite me up here, evangelizing obviously about open source because, 1, that's my job, but 2, I'm passionate about it. You don't always have to choose open source. Don't feel obligated. Be strategic about where and how you adopt your tools. Don't just use the tool because everybody else does.
And now I want to back up because honestly, the talks are really wonderful, but the important thing about the vast majority of the Linux and open source conferences I've been to, the Linux Foundation, All Things Open, etc., is having a ticket explicitly called the hallway track where they're not allowed to enter into a lot of the talks, but they are allowed to network is an incredible idea, especially for beginners or hobby enthusiasts in a specific topic to learn more and get involved. I think this is a super snazzy idea for a large majority of virtual events. Part of me really wishes that events like Measure Summit or Traffic and Conversion Summit do this. One particular example that I had was an interaction that I had with Jay at teachlinux.tv. He has become an incredible mentor for me since All Things Open, and he's been an absolute gem of someone to talk to about improving and increasing this community channel. So I definitely recommend giving him a subscribe as well. On that note, I want to bring up a talk by Scott Hanselman, which was specifically about the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. Mentorship is the idea of elevating other people in our space by making sure that they get access to information that is not otherwise taught or provided in access without paid features. Mentorship allows individuals to really enrich in a space through careful, curated experience. What Scott vies for is sponsorship, which is the notion of actually putting yourself out there and creating opportunities actively actively for these individuals that you are choosing to mentor. It's one thing to give them extra information or provide specific interviews. It's a completely new thing to actually get them opportunities, get them in the door, and provide introductions to the people who matter. One of the easiest ways that I recommend enacting this advice is to go out and find 3 people who are just like you, also looking for opportunities. Become friends with them. And then with those 3 friends, find 3 people that you look up to, 3 mentors or 3 sponsors, and join their school of thought so that they can provide those mentorship and sponsorship opportunities. Then it's time for you to become that mentor for 3 people that you think that you can assist or help. Just like that, you'll have 9 people and you will have started a close-knit, small group that can become in and of itself a community. Open source is starting to realize that just because people are not able to code does not mean they're not technical. So a lot of non-coding members have now started to become a core aspect of the online communities that have developed. One of the most particular tenets of Web3, in fact, is that you need to be building the community before you build the product. And I totally agree with this concept, even though I do have some problems with Web3. Let's go ahead and finish with the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to bring up the good again by saying that we did get a Raspberry Pi, so be sure to subscribe and then comment down below telling me how you would like to use it, what projects are available. One of the bad things that I want to talk about is that All Things Open for the past 2 years has been a virtual event. Same thing with the Community Leadership Summit. And it seems like this year at All Things Open, and especially the Community Leadership Summit, the virtual concept was just ignored. In a way, I think that this is a good thing because trying to make it hybrid could have created problems for the event itself. But one of the bad things about it is that not all talks were recorded, including my own. I think that in future years, given how big All Things Open is, I think that they do need to focus a little bit on making sure that their live streams and their virtual concepts are at least integrated to the main stages, and that those virtual conversations can actually develop in the hallway track. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention one other thing, which was after the event, I cannot tell you how many different open source contributing vendors have talked to me that I'm pretty sure I did not interact with. The email segmentation is so terrible, and I really want to not have to hit that unsubscribe button after every conference. All right, so let's conclude overall, what did I think of All Things Open? It made a strong showing once again. I do think a virtual component needs to happen next year. And I also think that the Community Leadership Summit, which was the reason that I went, was probably the highlight of the event for me, at least. I did end up speaking 4 separate times throughout the Community Leadership Summit. So I'm also gonna toss those talks up on the YouTube channel as well, just to make sure that you didn't miss anything at All Things Open. So be sure to subscribe down below, take a look at the regulation to make sure that that Raspberry Pi is viable, and comment down below as soon as you possibly can. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you want to see more conference work, click here, because this is the CMX conference event that I reviewed as well. Have a good day, guys. Bye.